All right, Halas Huddlers. Following up on our Bears icon Mount Rushmore snake draft, which I won, we are here to do a playmakers snake draft, and I'm very excited to win again.
Who's going to win this time? Let's figure it out.
Huddle up!
Huddle up, Halas Huddlers. As always, I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. We got the usual suspects tonight, Justin and Bob. And we have a special guest. We got Seth Crane here with us. Seth is actually the guy that everyone has to thank for all of my draft content, because he is the one that connected me with the Discord that has all of the All 22 film for college tape. So I have to give a big round of applause to him. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Bob and I actually got to meet Seth in person at the CHGO draft party for the Caleb Williams Roman Dunze draft. So that was exciting. Thank you for joining us. Welcome in, Seth. Let everyone know where they can find you on your socials real quick.
Yeah. Hey, thanks guys. Appreciate it. Awesome to be here. You can find me at Seth Crane. SETHCRAIN on X, Twitter. I guess it's been long enough. We'll probably start calling it X by now. But and then I also do a little bit of content. Been a while since I've done it, but mostly draft related stuff on the Bears department on YouTube.
Yeah, great stuff. Go check that out. And Seth, no, there's never a length of time here, because look, it's still the Sears Tower, and Willis Tower has been in the works forever. So it'll always be Twitter.
That's right.
As Justin alluded to tonight, we have another snake draft for you guys. We are going to be drafting Chicago Bears playmakers. This one's going to be a 5-round draft where we are going to be drafting offensive-only players, right? So we're going to be drafting 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end. Sorry, offensive line. I know some of you guys can catch touchdowns, but you are just, especially in a Ben Johnson offense,
That's right.
you are not considered playmakers on this team. Plus, it was hard enough to try and find certain guys in certain eras, so that's going to be very difficult as well. So that's the other part of this. The caveat here is you can only select 1 player from each timeline. So we have the 80s. I don't want to say decades because it's a little bit tricky here at the end, but we'll say decades. You got 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and then you got 2020 to present. So you got to find 1 player from each, and it cannot be drafted more than once. So if a guy is in like each decade, you can't have, that player of the 80s and that player of the 90s. Doesn't work that way. We will do this snake style. We did this pre-draft. I am in first, and we're in order here as you see us. So me, Justin, Seth, Bob.
All right, old heads who are going to say, why didn't you go all the way back? There's only a few players that are worth mentioning. I'd say Ditka and Sayers. The rest, I think we're okay without.
Sid Luckman. We'll throw Sid Luckman out there still.
Look at the numbers, Bob, but anyway, we'll see.
I mean, there's guys.
Different
Bronco
era.
Nagurski. I mean, there's guys, but
But you're going back to the 20s with that, man. That'd be crazy.
We had to cut it somewhere, right? So the last 5 decades for 5 positions, it just made it kind of simple.
Yep,
so
that's what we're doing.
So then, as always, you guys are the ones who decide, right? You guys are the viewers. So please hit the subscribe button now so you don't miss this and all the snake draft content or any other Chicago Bears content that we have going out. But go to the comment section, because that's where you vote. Go to the comment section and you put in who you believe is the winner when this is all said and done.
Yeah, this is a competition. Somebody wants to win, and we win by the comments. So help us out here.
Yeah, congratulations, Justin, on winning, if you want to call it that. The last
I
one.
do want to call it that. Thank you.
All right, I think we're just gonna get it going. I am number 1 on the board, on the clock, and look, we pick our draft slots, right? Like, we don't just figure out who's what. And I struggled with this because I didn't know if I really wanted to just take the guy and then try to figure out where I'm going to go the rest of the draft. Like, it kind of sets me up for success, but then in ways it kind of throws me back because now I got to wait, 6 more picks before it gets back to me. So I struggled with it. I spent a few hours, and finally I decided on the first overall pick. Why? Because, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I'm going to take Walter Payton. Like, there's just nothing else out there that you can do. Like, how do you not take Walter Payton? I just can't think of any other player at this point who would ever go 101. I don't know. Am I crazy here?
He wasn't on my board.
Whoa!
Rob, you talked so long that I was like, did he pass on him? Because it will ruin my whole preparations. But you did what you had to do.
Yeah, I mean, Walter Payton's the guy. I mean, we've been doing so much content these last couple of weeks about Bears history, and he's just the top of every single list of everything. Like, he deserves 1-1. I mean, almost to the point where it's like, maybe we shouldn't have even had him eligible for this draft and just said no Walter Payton and go from there. So, I mean, it's obvious 1-1. You got to do it.
Or you had to play him at one of his other positions because he threw the ball, he caught the ball.
True.
He punted, he kicked. But anyway. All right. Well, I guess I can just go.
Well, had he not been on the board, I will tell you right now, I probably wouldn't have taken the first pick.
So
Sure.
I think the next player is also obvious. However, I'm going to maybe surprise you guys on the decade that I'm choosing. So I'm going to go.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That's right. We do have to announce the decade. Obviously, I'm announcing the 80s. Sorry, I forgot that part.
You don't have to for that, I don't think. But
Okay.
anyway, my guy spanned 2 decades. I'm going with Matt Forte. Now, he played only 2 years of the 2000s. The rest of his career was the 2010s. However, one of the things I keep saying about in my praise for Matt Forte is that he's been so consistent throughout his career. I do think his best season was in 2013, but I would argue that his second best season was his rookie season in 2008. Additionally, I've run the numbers. I have his average stats through his whole career as a Bear. And then I compared just the 2 years in the 2000s. He actually had more yards rushing in the 2000s average, same number of touchdowns, which was 6 per season, and just 1 catch fewer, 60 catches a year. His rookie season, and Rob, I know he won you a fantasy league, so please remember that. His rookie year, 1,238 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns rushing, 63 catches, 477 receiving yards with an additional 4 receiving touchdowns. So 12 total touchdowns. I'm going with him in the 2000s, boys. What do you think?
You took it, man. That was my pick. That was my pick, and I had the same thought process. 2008, I was like, it gives me the 10s and the 20s wide open. It's like his second best year. Man, stole
Had
it.
to.
I mean, I think we're second pick in, playing a little fast and loose with the rules already. I mean, I'm not vetoing. I'm not saying it's not, but I mean, look, he didn't even make a Pro Bowl those first 2 years. His 2 Pro Bowl years are later. He played 5 years in the 2010s, only 2 in the 2000s. So I don't think you're getting the best version of Matt Forte. His best season was 2013, as you said, 100 catches. I mean, he did it all in that decade, and you're taking the
all rookie team. And we know Pro Bowl can be a big part of making the Pro Bowl is what you've already done. So as a rookie to make it would be very, very challenging. I do think that rookie year, though, was his second best year overall. And as I said, if you look at his total average with the Bears compared to just his 2000s average, actually ran for more yards with a lower per carry average, same amount of receptions, slightly fewer receiving yards, and touchdowns were equal.
Yeah, I'm certainly not suggesting he sucked in 2008, 2009. Just saying, he's a 2010s player, and there's a little technical. I understand how you're setting up your board. I would have done the exact same thing.
Thank you.
We got to point it out.
Fair.
All right.
Nice, Seth.
Seth,
All right, I guess I'm up. I got to take him off my board. And guys, I'm not going to lie. Tight end's pretty rough. You go back and you look at some of those years, it's pretty bad. Like, we didn't even get the best years of Greg Olsen. Freaking traded him away. Worst year
trade ever in Bears history.
Yeah, by far. But I think what I'm going to go with here, and it's a new guy, but he's a captain on the team, and he's got the second best season in the last 30 years. Obviously, we've got Ditka back in the day, but I'm going to take Cole Kmet, and specifically his 2023 season, where he had 719 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, Cole Kmet's a stud. I think it's kind of funny. Our guest last week is not a Cole Kmet fan, and here we got going in the first round. That's great. But you're absolutely right. Tight end was tough position for the Bears. There's lots of okay guys, but like when you get, who appears to be the best tight end eligible in this draft, I guess you kind of go grab that guy.
That was my thought process. It's like tight end's positional value in the real NFL is like non-existent, but in this draft, it's pretty apparent once you go down the list.
I actually feel like I did a fair amount of prep for this, and I have a whole decade where I didn't even identify a guy draftable at the position. So, not to tip my own Achilles heel, but that might be it. So, good pick there.
I honestly just think you're trying. Like, you must be a really big Halas Huddle fan, and you're just keeping us on brand because Cole Kmet is like the talk of the town at tight end in this circle of people here, at least from my perspective. So I'm shocked to see him go number 3. I'll be honest. I'm shocked to see him go number 3. I understand the philosophy behind it. Yeah.
Let's see.
All right. So I'm I think that there's still just a best player on the board situation. So I'm going to go there and then figure out from there is Brandon Marshall. I think that he is the biggest, baddest, best wide receiver who's played for the Bears, maybe ever, probably. And it happens to be right here on the top of my board. So we're going Brandon Marshall. 2 of the most productive seasons. It's just 2. So, I mean, you want to nitpick at just 2 seasons, but 2 of the most productive seasons for a wide receiver in Bears history. Just a monster, big, fast, strong, 100-plus catches, plus the 10 touchdowns, 1,000, 1,200 yards. He just kind of did it all while he was here.
Good pick.
Best Bears receiver. Like you said, it wasn't a lot of years. I saw that he was 13th all-time in yards, but that's in only 3 seasons. He's number 1 all-time in yards per game, and it's not even that close.
I got nothing bad to say. I love Brandon Marshall.
Rob, all right. Threw me off.
Yeah, Rob.
He got me speechless there.
His attitude or, something.
I mean, the guy had bipolar disorder, right? So, I mean, it's kind of hard to, like, talk down, and it wasn't until later on that he found out about it. And he's owned it. And, look, you see guys out there like Antonio Brown and, like, some crazy wide receivers with diva stuff, and Brandon Marshall's at the not even close mark in that regard. So maybe one of the best trades too, by the way.
True. I mean, it was hard to complain when we got Brandon Marshall. The dude just put up so many numbers. I remember he had like 17 or 18 catches in that one game with Cutler. That is a mind-boggling number. Like, absolutely insane.
I don't know how that happens. You only get like 11, maybe in a great game, 11 possessions. Like most things, 8 or 9. To have that many catches is nuts. So I'm going to kind of wrap around here with the most productive quarterback, again, short-lived, but highest peak quarterback in Bears history, Eric Kramer. I see Seth loves this pick. No, I shocked him maybe. I mean, Eric Kramer, like it's irreparably the most highest peak quarterback in this draft, eligible for these 5 years. I know that you could make arguments for some of these other guys, but Eric Kramer still sits at the top of Bears records, and I'm happy to grab him from that just rough decade of mine to lead my team.
So you're right. He's the peak of what the Bears have been able to produce. But to me, it was mostly a standout season. I mean, he has that yardage record and touchdown record, but the yards is not above 4,000, which every other team in the league has, and the touchdowns isn't over 30, which every team in the league has.
Are you going to draft a quarterback who's hit those numbers today?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
You make a good point there.
The thing that surprised me most. The thing that surprised me most about Kramer's season that year, he only took 15 sacks. Like, that is a crazy amount as far as, like, the little amount of sacks when you put it in perspective. Like, Caleb took 68 this last year. Yeah.
Gotta see
underrated season.
I'm a little surprised to see him go as the first quarterback, but I like your thought process there, Bob. I like, the fact that you're hitting the 90s right there with him on your roster. So that helps, I think. just not where I thought I would. Him and Komet, I think, are the two shocks to me so far. So,
but we'll see what happens when all 5 picks are on the board. That's what I think we're really going to know what's going on here. Who played the strategy the best?
Yeah, I think I thought you were going to take Jay Cutler because his first season with us, he actually had his second best season. And I know we're getting into a little bit of
technicalities here. Disingenuous, but yes, I know what you're saying.
But he had 36 interceptions that year, or 26 interceptions that year.
Correct. 26. Sorry, 26.
But his 2014 season, he went off. He had 28 touchdowns, only 18 interceptions. I say only. That was a pretty good year for Jay. And 3,800 yards. And that's pretty much the last quarterback we've had since the 80s. So good luck, guys, the rest of the way, because I'm taking smoking Jay Cutler.
Okay, I was like, wait, the way you're talking about him, are you taking him? Because, I need to put the name on the board if that's the case.
Ever or we're taking. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I the way my board's lining up with some of these other decades, I got some things on my mind there, and I couldn't take Cutler because of Marshall. But I mean, Jay Cutler, and arguably the most productive career in Bears history. We kind of wish it went better. Some of the seasons he had with the defense that we had, you think, how did it not go better? But coaching offensively was always a problem. But yeah, he was a stud, and it's he's going to look good on your graphic here on top of your board.
Yeah, we talked about no Bear throwing for 4,000 yards. The shame of it is Cutler had already done that in Denver before coming to the Bears. And so we kind of recalibrated what we hoped that bar would be, and he never quite reached it. But if you actually look at what he did, including bringing them to the playoffs, on 2 occasions, I feel like that's a great pick. The interception numbers are high. But as we're talking, even in today's NFL, your interceptions is not the end all be all if you're throwing touchdowns too. So good pick. Am I up?
You are on.
All right. Like I said, I did a lot of draft prep to get ready for this, but Seth, you threw me, man. You threw me with one of your picks, and I think you just forced my hand. I don't think I should be reacting to what you guys are doing as much as I'm about to. But tight end is a very thin position, and I really like Cole Kmet. But if you actually look at it, the best tight end to play for the Bears, even though it was short-lived, is Martellus Bennett. And so I'm actually going to take Martellus Bennett from the 2010s. He only played 3 seasons with the Bears, but one of those seasons he had 90 catches and 916 yards with 6 touchdowns. That was a Pro Bowl season. His other 2 seasons, one, he had 65 catches, 759 yards with 5 touchdowns. And the only one that's a little lower statistically is because he only played in 11 games. But that year, 53 catches, 439 yards with 3 touchdowns. Very productive. A little cuckoo, but we like that, made for some interesting press conferences. So I'm going Martellus Bennett here. Surprising even myself.
Yeah, I mean, he was, the guy when we he easily could have made our all quarter century team, right? He was uber productive when he was here. He also, kind of maybe some attitude issues make you misremember how dominant he was, but we have not seen really a tight end like that do that year after year. 2-3 years run he had, and it was right at the top of most of the leaderboards for tight end. So I think that's the right spot for him. Good pick.
Yeah, I'll agree. That year when he slammed Kyle Fuller into the ground after he said that he could have broke my neck, that infamous quote. I was like, man, you heard about all those fights that were going on in training camp, practices down in Bourbonnais. I was like, this guy's different. Then he got into his talking about how he would draw and make children's books. Different kind of cat. Different cat.
Yeah, different type of guy for sure. But he
what
was
his nickname? Like Black Unicorn or something?
Yeah,
I think it had something to do with like some type of fantasy creature or something.
Yeah. Honestly, though, Justin, I'm a little disappointed because Forte helped me win a championship. Bennett did not help us win a fantasy championship in UFFL. Like it was a rough year, I feel like, for us with Bennett.
I'm giving him a chance at redemption here, though, Rob. That's what this is about.
All right. Okay, so that puts me on the board for 2.
Right.
I'll be honest, like I was not expecting the draft to go this way, and it's kind of thrown me off as I'm trying to figure out who I want to put where when it comes to the decades, right? Like there's guys, it's like quickly just pick guys, but it's got to be strategic. Man, so I have running back already. I'm gonna kill myself here when it comes to leaving some players on the board that I want, but based on how things went, and I can't take Jim Harbaugh. Oh, maybe tipped a pick there. I'm gonna have to go Caleb Williams because I need a quarterback. And here's the thing: I think Caleb Williams is just going to project as being the best ever quarterback for this team. So that's like my only thing here. Like he had the best rookie season for a quarterback. I'm going to hope that he has the best sophomore season. He's going to break that 4,000 yard mark. Maybe he'll even break the 30 touchdown mark. Who knows?
Yeah, he's going to do that all by week 14 this year. I'm pretty sure about that. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, I mean, he's draft eligible in this. I know that it's like he's only played 1 year, but clearly I think he's just the best thrower of the ball to play for the Bears. I get it. And, that's part of the fun about having this kind of 5-year decade being part of the draft here is that you got to make choices on some of these guys and how are they going to look against some of these historic players. So I think that's a fine pick. I did not know where he was going to go. I'm going to be honest. I gave him some consideration where I was at over Kramer. I really did. But yeah, it could obviously a good player. We're hoping nothing but the best from Caleb Williams.
If you would have let him swing back to me, Rob, I would have won the draft already. I mean, his floor, I feel like what he did was his floor. And it couldn't have been I put less than ideal situation, but I think that's putting it very mildly. He's already 5th all time in a single season in yardage. Again, I'm thinking of these as like his floor type numbers. 7th all time in passer rating. And it's kind of like, I don't know. You can definitely come back at me for if this doesn't go this way. But you know how Walter Payton has all the rushing things? A few years from now, I think we're going to see that with Caleb. So I really like that pick. I wish it was mine.
Well, I'm glad that I don't know if I would consider it a snipe because I had 2 picks, but we'll say a snipe there. All right. Going on to my next pick, and I know we said that he didn't have his best years here, but we have hinted already at the fact that tight end is weak. I am going to take Greg Olsen. Clearly, it's going to be the 2000s for that. No. Yeah, 2000s.
Yeah, we're going for the 2000s. Yeah.
I got nothing to say. I mean, I wish that we saw the best of him here. We already mentioned the trade was the worst ever, in my opinion, for Bears history. So, what do you guys think real quick?
Bad time for me to mention this, but I'm under the assumption that we're operating under what they did for the Chicago Bears. And so, like you said, those weren't his best years. He had shown enough that there was promise. And obviously when he left, what he did with Carolina puts him damn near Hall of Fame level. But unfortunately, the Bears didn't reap the benefits of that. So I'd put him a little lower on my list. But of course, we like him as a player.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting Hall of Fame Greg Olsen in this draft, unfortunately. But those 4 years he were here was as good as really 4 years for a tight end have been here. Like we talked about, there just hasn't been a lot of consistent tight end play for an extended period of time. So Greg Olsen, 1st-round pick, was fine when he was here. He wasn't the Hall of Fame guy, but a good player. So I understand exactly where your head's at drafting him there.
Also, if you have never heard it, go watch the Miami rap video where he's G-Reg. It's very not G-rated, but go check that out. All right, to you, Justin.
All right. So, the tricky part of this draft is the one person per decade. So, based on the decades I've already drafted and some of the players that came off the board, I feel like I'm getting a very strong player here, but some people are going to need a little bit of a lesson on this guy. I'm going to go with 1990 receiver Curtis Conway. Now, again, I actually think in this preparation of this draft, receiver was like the most fun position to scout. The Bears, although they haven't had the quarterbacks, have had some nice receivers come through. But with Conway, he was here for a good amount of time, enough to earn him 6th all time in Bears receiving yards. And in 1995 and 1996 combined, I would say those were his 2 best years. These were his averages over that time period. 72 catches per season, 1,043 yards per season, and this is the one, 10 touchdowns. So very productive receiver. Again, we're talking about productive for a team that hasn't been that productive, but I'm very excited. I had him as my number 3 receiver of all of the list, but unfortunately, I couldn't take some guys because of decades. But I'm happy to get Conway here.
Yeah, to be honest, I was considering Conway just because I feel like he's one of maybe 3 guys in the 90s that are worth taking. So, good pick.
Yeah, Kyrus Conway, one of my favorite players growing up, like because he was there for so long. He did have a nice run here. So when you're a young fan, you're not really paying that much attention. It's just the name you heard over and over and over again. Always catching balls, always getting yards, 1,000-yard guy. So yeah, Kyrus Conway. Yeah, anyone who doesn't know how good he was, because maybe he didn't get the accolades, not a Hall of Famer, but just a consistent, great player.
Never watched him.
Oh no, that's all right. There you go. There's education for you. Now you know.
I shouldn't say that. I've seen old games. I'm one of those psychopaths that I'll go back and I'll watch old games, just like on NFL films or wherever. And I've actually have seen him play, but didn't never get to see him live.
I'm betting that's kind of grainy now when you go back and look, and yet it's only the 90s. I'm getting old.
And that's the thing is, who's going back to watch 90s Bears games? Because not a good decade.
All right, Seth.
Nope.
At the clock.
Okay. Another surprisingly thin position was running back. And I'm not going to leave you guys hanging this time. 2005, a guy named Thomas Jones had a monster season. And for my 2010s pick, I am going to take Thomas Jones. He was probably my favorite running back growing up until I think Jordan Howard came to the team in the 2010s. But pretty darn good season in 2005, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Jones was a stud. He's one of my favorite players. Just super productive. He was just tough. He would be able to catch the ball, do blocking. He just kind of did it all. And yeah, that 2005 season was great. Obviously, he was productive on the 2006 season too. But just a monster. One of my favorite Bears jerseys at that time as well was Thomas Jones. So good pick. He's definitely the 3rd best running back available out here. So nice job there.
Not a bad actor either. So
that's true. Unfortunately, one of the things we think about is, could they have used him more in that Super Bowl? But we'll never know.
Yeah.
All right, so I love how this just worked out for me. I think that it just lined up as much as it could have. So I'm taking another receiver off of our all-quarter century team, Marty Booker from the 2000s. Those 4 seasons that he played, and he played 5 seasons with the Bears. One was technically 99, but 2000 through 2004, just 1,000 yards, 100 catches. Like, he was just as consistent as could be. So I love exactly where I'm at. The most productive quarterback in Bears history, throwing to Brandon Marshall and Marty Booker. I'm excited where my team's at right now.
I would have wanted him. I already had used the decade. So, Bob, I was playing kind of loose by taking Forte in the 2000s, and that eliminated me to be able to take Booker. But, yeah, we talked about how he's a bit underrated, but was consistent. Very productive receiver, as you said. So, I like the pick. You got 2 really good receivers on your team.
Very happy with how that worked out. Yeah. Doesn't matter that maybe my quarterback is Eric Kramer. I got the
record-setting Eric Kramer.
Record-setting Eric Kramer. That's right. So for my next one, it's just a guy who just fell to me, but it just kind of the board played great. It's 2020's productive running back, David Montgomery. This guy just did it all. Again, the catching, the running, the power, the elusiveness for a guy his size, you wouldn't really think. Maybe the top end break-based speed wasn't there, but he did it. He did it all. And he kind of came in as a 3rd round pick, but he was the first pick in that draft, remember? And so everyone was kind of treating him like a 1st round pick, and he lived up to it. He produced, and he kind of got shipped out of town in free agency that didn't go his way, but he landed in a good spot. I'm happy to see him dominate. It sucks that it's for the Lions, but I'm happy for him that he's still productive. But David Montgomery is just a great guy, great player, and really happy that it fell to me here.
Like it. Good pick.
Silence. Oh, man. You guys know I'm just running away with this draft right now.
I'm looking at the board. I'm trying to get my next pick lined up. But, yeah, you can't say anything bad about Montgomery other than what you said, which is now he's with the Lions. But I was happy for him. Yeah, he's a consistent back, and he did everything. So they say he's a poor man's Forte. I'm just putting that out there for the voters.
He was always a fun watch in interviews, too. I remember just those 2020 season club dub seasons he had early on in his career with us. I mean, he was always just goofing around, funny guy, loved being in the locker room, loved seeing him in the locker room. Good pick.
I liked his Iowa State film. I mean, the guy, I was one of those guys that was pounding the table for him in the third round. I loved when Ryan Poles took him. So, hey, I'll be honest, I don't like looking at your team, Bob, except for, Kramer is the one that's throwing me off there. If you were able to pair Cutler with that group, I would say you're probably the front runner, but obviously
you can't have Cutler and Booker and Marshall, right? So it's just, you gotta, we'll see what happens at the end of the draft. We stack everybody from quarterback down to tight end. We'll see how it lines up.
Again, I have Walter Payton, so I just win. It's just how it works.
Yeah, there's a
maybe
start there.
So I goofed, guys, pretty hard actually.
I was going to say, did you have Cutler as your 2000s? Because I just changed it to 2010s.
No, it's 2010s.
Okay, all right.
But I should have, and I even said this before we started recording to myself. I said, if it's between these two guys, don't take Thomas Jones over him.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm not going to tip it because I obviously don't want you guys to take him if you didn't have the same thought process as me.
Well, everybody has a running back, so you can tip it.
Wasn't a running back.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got it.
Yeah, wasn't a running back.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to take Curtis Conway's running mate from the 90s, and that is Jeff Graham. Ooh. Arguably the third or fourth best wide receiver season in 95, the same season that Conway had over 1,000 yards. Fun fact. It was the first time, it was one of two times, I should say, two receivers over 1,000 yards in the last 40 years.
Wow. I mean, I guess what we're basically saying is Kramer has the record for passing yards. People had to catch the ball, huh? So, yeah, great. Nice pick with Graham. Even better because you left a guy for me that I was really hoping would make it. So, but I'll let Rob and Bob respond before I make that pick.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Graham is every bit as good while he was here for those shorter seasons as Curtis Conway, right? Curtis Conway had the longevity. So, I mean, I definitely like Curtis Conway going ahead of Jeff Graham. But Jeff Graham deserves to be mentioned in a draft like this because he was the complement, right? He was catching all those balls too. He had the touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, those two, those high-flying Bears offense for a season or two there in the 90s. And he was every bit a part of that.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed because I was hoping he was going to get to me.
And as much as you're pissed, I'm ecstatic. Can I make my pick now?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. So, Rob, you had kind of mentioned, I forget where you said it, but you kind of said that a decade was thin. And I feel that way about the 80s. And I have not picked an 80s player yet. Obviously, you like who you got in the 80s, Rob. But I'm going Willie Gault. And here's the thing, man. I loved doing the research on Willie Gault here. So 9th all time in Bears in yards. Now listen to this, guys. His highest number of receptions in a season was only 42. So what the heck am I drafting this guy for? His most yards, though, was 836. That's a little better. And that was in his rookie year, by the way. But listen to this. His average yards per catch. 3 times he was over 20 yards per catch for the season. He had a 21.3 average, a 20.9, and a 20.1. So he was big play type receiver, stretched the field. I already have Forte, who we know can catch the ball on the underneath. So I got a guy now that can stretch the field, and I picked him out of a thin decade. I'm really happy I was able to get Willie Gault here. If you had taken him, Seth, I don't know what I was going to do. So thank you.
I'm screwed. I'm screwed.
There had to be another receiver in the 80s. I'm confident the Bears had one other wide receiver in the 80s.
No, man. You've got Jim McMahon thrown for 2,000 yards a year and playing like 50% of the games. The next receiver behind Willie Gault is like 400 yards. Like, I shot myself in the foot. So
I was like, please don't take Willie. Please don't take Willie. All right, I love it. Thank you.
I mean, other than our strategy here, I mean, Willie Gault, like he's just one of those guys. Again, the '80s Bears were a little bit before our time, right? But like he's the name that on that Bears offense, right? It's Walter Payton, it's Jim McMahon, and it's Willie Gault. I feel like I'm okay tipping Jim McMahon at this point because I don't believe he's going to get drafted here. But yeah, so I love the pick. Yeah.
All right, Rob.
I'm not going to say anything on it, but I will say he was. The 80s, Justin, is the decade that I had that was very, very thin.
If it was a defensive draft.
Completely opposite, right? Completely opposite. All right, well, it didn't throw me off mine because I couldn't have taken a guy from the 80s. Like you said, obviously I like my guy from the 80s. So I'm done here. I get my 2 picks, and I'm going to wrap this up for myself. And looking at my board, I need 2 wide receivers. And a really, really shitty 1990s decade where the 2 good receivers were taken. I could say Tom Waddle because the name would look good on the graphic because everyone loves Tom Waddle in this town, but he wasn't good. He wasn't good. Like he's, again, not somebody that I want on this team. So, I
like that you're talking down your own pick. Makes our job easier.
Okay, so there's one name left.
One away. Okay.
There's one name left, right? But that played in the 1990s. Not for very long, but he played in 98 and he played in 99. Yeah. And arguably his best season came in 1999 with 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, 149 targets, and 84 catches. And I'm dragging this out horribly bad, but it's Marcus Robinson. He got an honorable mention on our episode that we did for the quarter century team. So I don't hate it, right? Like I think he's fine.
I don't understand where this Marcus Robinson down talking is coming from. Marcus Robinson was a beast before Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall. He was the dynamic playmaker for wide receiver position in Chicago Bears history. I love Marcus Robinson. It's like, Randy Moss had just started playing and Marcus Robinson came up like, that's our guy. He was awesome. It was injuries that more derailed the rest of what he could have done. It wasn't that he just like went away. It was injuries. Like I don't know what you're misremembering here, Rob, but Marcus, I don't mean to
I just remember 2 seasons.
Marcus Robinson because of the pride that I have in Marcus Robinson as a Bears fan.
He had a monster season in 99.
But that's the catch. Right? That's the catch, though, is like he only had 1999 for that decade. So, like, it's very difficult for me to, like, say that's the guy. Like, honestly, I think I would have had the steady Jeff Graham who was catching 6-7 touchdowns a year. Like, that was where I was going, and I don't – and just because of the way I wanted my team to round out. But I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And the reason being is, I still have a 2010s player to pick. Right.
Hold on. One more thing about Marcus Robinson, though, and Bob, you kind of touched on it a little bit. It was like how he did it. Like he was a go up and get it guy. Like he would go over guys, catch it double covered, didn't matter. And that was in the prime time of us kind of, really getting to understand what we were watching. So yeah, I like Marcus Robinson. Good pick.
Yep, that was a beast.
All right, so Bob kind of tipped my pick a little bit.
I did.
But I was going that way anyway, so it's not like it really mattered, and no one could pick before me. So, my next pick is Alshon Jeffrey because I have the 2010s left, and I absolutely love the idea of having him here. A guy who did he make? Yeah, because I got outvoted, right? So he was on our quarter century team. So again. Somebody that I can't be disappointed with, and the fact that I have Walter Payton and Caleb Williams has 2 solid receivers, and I have a gold jacket, Greg Olson, in my opinion.
No, you don't. You have
No, you
Chicago
do not,
Bears,
sir.
Greg
No,
Olsen.
you do not.
Hey, the graphic will say Greg Olsen.
Strike that from the record, listeners. Strike that from the record. But no, you got Jeffrey. I had him as my number 2 receiver, but it was just unfortunate for me. I had to reach. Seth made me reach for Bennett, so now I couldn't take Jeffrey. But to get him that late, wonderful job by you. Can't complain. That's a great pick.
All right, well,
All right, Justin.
Although I kind of did the same thing. So when you see that guys already have taken certain positions, you can let it sit. I only have 1 decade and I only have 1 position. I would have preferred a different guy for 2020s, but let's be real. In terms of excitement and production, I'm very happy to put Justin Fields in as my quarterback. And I have a scary roster, guys, because we remember, Fields, he had his limitations as a passer. But what he could do as a runner, no one else could do. I mean, maybe you got your Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson to some extent, those types of players. But he's absolutely electric, can change the game, and threw a pretty good deep ball. And I have Willie Galt and Curtis Conway. So I love my team the way it rounded out. Say what you want about Justin Fields, but to get him here, I think he completes my roster, and I'm loving my team.
I almost asked Rob if I could use him as a running back because he had over 1,000 yards that one year.
Fair enough. I
Yeah,
have a running back
I
that's a receiver and a quarterback that's a running back.
I love that Justin Fields got drafted here. I mean,
Yes.
I know I already kind of tipped a couple of picks ago that I knew Jim McMahon wasn't going to get drafted because I knew how this was going. So just like it's for a Super Bowl winning quarterback to not get drafted in the draft today, that's a little tough. But I mean, Justin Fields will just always have a soft spot in my heart. Like I will always root for Justin Fields. I'm 100% down with moving on from him for Caleb Williams. That's not the debate here, but he was just so much fun to watch. I guess if you didn't care about winning, Justin Fields was so
We're
fun.
Bears fans, Bob.
Hey,
I'll continue having fun watching Justin Fields play football until he's not playing anymore.
he's the most frustrating, exciting player to watch at the position. He really is. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, Jim McMahon's best season was worse than Justin's worst season.
And that's throwing.
However,
okay,
okay, I'm going to be the naysayer really, really quick. However, look, and I know you couldn't have drafted him, but Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl. Bob alluded to it. Look, Justin Fields, in 8 attempts in a fourth quarter, come back 0-8.
I'm not saying he's a better quarterback. Different game too.
That, Rob. You know,
McMahon
we're talking
was
about
sixth.
winning.
McMahon was 6th on my list. I would have only taken him if I had to, and I did not play enough games consistently, but helped. Sorry, I'm really small. Helped win a Super Bowl. That's what I put for him.
So I got to quickly say, because I was struggling with choosing which pick, and I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get a quarterback taking Walter Payton? Justin Fields was number 4 on my list, and I was like, look, if I get stuck with Fields and I have Walter Payton, could you imagine that combination?
I would have
had to go with the better.
Caleb Williams over.
I had to go with the better throwing quarterback in
Forte,
Caleb Williams,
baby.
and the
Forte.
projection of where I think he's going to be.
All right, sorry to slow us down there. Seth,
All right, Seth, I think this is going to be my favorite pick of the draft. So let's go.
All right. So I want to tease the pick I was going to make. I was going to pick Devin Hester for the 2000s as a wide receiver, obviously, because that specifically, like the 2006 when he was drafted to like 2009 when they were really trying hard to use him as a wide receiver. Specifically that 2007 season, he had like 1,400 return yards in 1 year. An absolutely insane amount of return yards. But my pick is not Devin Hester.
Not a Hall of Famer? No?
Not a Hall of Famer. But played a lot of games for the Bears. A lot of games for the Bears in the 80s specifically. Dennis McKinnon.
That's the guy. That's the
You
pick.
had to.
Yep.
And good job distracting us by talking about Hester first.
Just write in Devin Hester instead and just put 1985 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Dennis McKinnon other than what you just said. He played for the Bears for forever. So, thanks for being part of those 80s teams, Dennis, that you earned yourself a spot in this draft, but I'm sure is one of the biggest accolades that you could have.
I guess if you wanted to pick an 80s returner, you could have gone Gentry, but I don't know if he's wide receiver or running back eligible, but it was a tough pick at that point for 80s. So
I had Dennis Gentry on my list for receiver for 80s. So
okay, fair enough. All right, Bobo.
All right, so I can't believe that it went this way. I'm so happy that it went this way. I'm going to take a tight end who's a huge part of the 85 Chicago Bears, a Hall of Famer for the Bears as a tight end, Mike Ditka. I can't believe I got him.
that doesn't
Veto.
All right.
Buddy Ryan is the reason they were in the Super Bowl anyway.
I tried. No, but still, I don't mean to discount Emery Moorhead. He still has the second most receiving yards as a tight end in Chicago Bears history, second only to Mike Ditka. So as we said, there haven't been a lot of tight ends who have stuck around for a long time. Emery Moorhead was that guy. The entire decade he played, he was, consistent as you could be. Look at his season by season stats. None of them are impressive other than the longevity and being part of those kind of just monster teams of the 80s. So I'm pretty happy with the way that worked out for me, having him fall to the tight end, the last pick.
I wanted to give you – I was hoping you would mention something else about him. You know who his son was, right? Aaron Moorhead.
Oh, Aaron Moorhead.
U of I.
U of I wide receiver, right?
Played at U of I, yeah. And I believe the Colts may be in the league. I don't know if he did much.
I think you're right. I think it was the Colts, yeah.
U of I connection. So you had to go Moorhead. And like you said, nothing impressive, but solid.
The most surprising about the tight ends of that era is you have arguably one of the greatest tight ends of all time as your head coach in the 80s. And they did not have a dominant tight end scheme. They did not throw Emery the ball as much as they did to Ditka in the 60s.
Right.
They did have Walter Payton. So maybe,
Walter
Payton was more the strategy, right?
It's possible Emery Moorhead wasn't as good as Mike Ditka. Maybe
That might have been part of it too.
Probably.
Okay. All right, well, this was fun. Let me read through the rosters real quick. And hey, everybody still watching, please, we need your votes. We need to see who wins. We take this very seriously. It's very competitive, and we want a winner. So, all right, Rob out of the number 1 slot, Caleb Williams from the 20s, Walter Payton from the 80s, Marcus Robinson from the 90s, Alshon Jeffrey from the 2010s, and Greg Olson from the 2000s. Justin Fields from the 20s, Matt Forte from the 2000s, Curtis Conway from the 90s, Willie Gault from the 80s, and Martellus Bennett from the 10s. Seth, Jay Cutler from the 10s, Thomas Jones, 2000s, Jeff Graham from the 90s, Dennis McKinnon from the 80s, and Cole Kmet from the 20s. And me, Bob, Eric Kramer from the 90s, David Montgomery from the 20s, Brandon Marshall from the 10s, Marty Booker from the 2000s, and Emery Moorhead from the 80s. So I think there were some solid squads all the way around, guys. I think we did a pretty good job. Are there any players who didn't get drafted that we feel like we need to mention here?
Yeah.
A-Rob.
Yeah.
What about Neil Anderson?
Yeah.
Neil Anderson.
There's only 4 running backs who got drafted, right? So that was kind of interesting. If had things gone a certain way, I definitely could have seen myself grabbing Neil Anderson as an 80s player. He actually made a couple of Pro Bowlers in the 88 and 89, so that was definitely a way it could have gone.
He could have been sneaky 90s too, because he had, I think, 2 years into the 90s, and the other options weren't as great.
His years in the 90s were just as good as his years in the 80s, but he got the Pro Bowls in the 80s. And,
right.
Yeah, that should have been my pick.
Yeah,
honestly, I should have taken him over Thomas Jones, and then I would have had Devin Hester at the turn. But
it happens fast. These snake traps happen fast.
I'd be the worst GM ever. I'd get the worst picks.
I am glad though that you mentioned Hester. He was on my list for honorable mentions as well. Real quick, I feel like Kyle Orton and Rex Grossman, just because that's how bad these quarterbacks were, and Jim Harbaugh, who became, in my opinion, one of the best coaches that I've seen in the NFL, and I absolutely love him as a character. And I loved what they did in Michigan, so that's fantastic. Other names that I had on here, real quick, were one of my favorite tight ends growing up was Desmond Clark. We called him Old Man Clark, me and my cousin, so that was a good one. Mitch Trubisky was a sneaky honorable mention.
There's only 4 quarterbacks going to get drafted, right? So, how close were these guys to, being top 4 in Bears history?
Yeah. Colston Loveland, I actually had on the list, even though he hasn't even had a snap.
I could have made an argument for that. Had we had offensive line in this draft, I was probably going to draft the 2025 offensive line.
I would have taken Kyle Long all day.
Yeah.
Kyle Long was my guy.
No, you would have had to fight me for him. I have his jersey. DJ Moore, another name, obviously. Roman
DJ Moore
Dudley.
is the one, I think, glaring omission from the 20s is DJ Moore. Other than that, I think we did a pretty good job of hitting all the highs here. But yeah, DJ Moore is probably he's probably better than some of these players who got drafted today.
Yeah, you're confined by the decades, one per decade. That really makes it tough. And it kind of ensures, like at a position like quarterback, that at least one decade is not going to be represented. And in this case, we had 2 from the 20s, but no one from the 2000s, so or 80s. But
And then I'm just going to throw these 2 names out here, and if no one else says anything, we can end the show. But I just feel like these guys need honorable mention just because of things that how they left the game, and that was Johnny Knox. Right? Had he been able to continue playing, maybe his career would be one that is worthy of being mentioned even more here. But every time he ran a post, like it was just like, all right, I think he might catch that. And then Zach Miller was the other one, and I'm sorry, but he ended his career on a touchdown.
Yeah, that was outrageous. The NFL did him dirty there. That was terrible.
horrible.
So I was actually, when I was looking back, I'm glad you brought him up. Zach Miller was on my list for tight ends, even though he'd never had a good season, but he had so many electric catches, like electric catches. That one where he caught it, he caught it.
Oh,
The one where he messed up his leg and he went to the hospital. He caught that.
it
We're
was
all
an
in agreement.
outrageous catch too. I mean, it was it was crazy.
That was probably payback for when Megatron caught it against the Bears and was ruled incomplete. So it was like, now they got to take one from the Bears. Unfortunately, it was on a brutal injury. So he's lucky to even have a leg, I heard. So
Yep.
Yeah, got bad.
Yep.
Got bad.
all right,
guys.
make sure you vote, Huddlers.
Yeah, this was fun. We will be back with more Bears content, more snake drafts, all of the above. Until then, bear down, claws up.
Oh.
Ready, break.